the way I've always looked upon India, Bharat, is we are a young US. We got independence about 160 years after the US, but
Hmm.
we've been catching up quite quickly in terms of both our growth as well as our as well as our improving the quality
Yeah.
of life and
Hmm.
removing people out of poverty, HDI, Human Development Index, as we say. But I think sectors which I think will be great for India. Of course, India is a tech hub. We have been developing IP for the world, but of course, IP for the world, but based in different countries. So you'll have Indian engineers in the US, developing IP for American companies. So I see a lot of IP in the future being created in India. I see a great deep growth which will come in terms of we'll have very large Indian companies, which of course based on the advantage of India is we have to build innovative low cost companies to deliver solutions. So
Hmm.
once you succeed in India, you can really scale that up globally.
The Sound of Money with Santosh Sirur.
Hello and welcome to this amazing episode of this podcast, The Sound of Money, with me, Santosh. And on this episode with me, I have a super guest joining in from Mumbai. He's Amaya Prabhu. He's the president of the Indian Chamber of Commerce and he's also the founder of NAFA Capital. Hi, Amaya, and welcome to The Sound of Money.
Hi, Santosh. Thank you for having me, and it's a great pleasure to being on The Sound of Money.
Most welcome, Amaya. Amaya, the first question I have for you, of course, as a president of ICC, the Indian Chamber of Commerce, can you outline the vision and the kind of role that this Chamber of Commerce is playing, and any particular space or industry that ICC plays a more major role as in?
Yeah, sure. So, the Indian Chamber of Commerce is the oldest chamber of commerce in India. It was founded in 1925 in Calcutta. Calcutta, the reason being in 1925, Calcutta, as you know, was not just the center of Indian commerce, but the center of Asian commerce. And was one of, I mean, what Singapore is today, or what Dubai or Tokyo is today, Calcutta was 100 years ago. So, and we will be entering 100th year as a chamber at the end of this year. Today, we are one of the major chambers in India, CII, FICCI being the other two. And what we are uniquely positioned as is, since I have taken over as the president, we've actually become one of the most international chambers in India. We
Okay.
already have 15 offices in different countries all over the world and expanding further into several other countries. Speaking of the areas that we are championing, of course, on one hand, we champion Indian trade, Indian industry. A lot of our members are tea plantation owners. A lot of our members are, people who are in the trade business.
Yeah.
We have people in the steel industry. So I think we have various committees. But I think one thing which I would say we've been also very good at has been taking up newer causes. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, we were the first ones to have a sustainability. Sorry, we were the first ones to have a committee for seaweed, which we
Okay.
further on took into blue economy. We were one of the first ones to have a committee on sustainability. Which back in the day. So we've been working with the government, working with our members in order to comply towards sustainability on the blue economy, especially on seaweed. We've done a great job in actually raising awareness for this sector and a lot of the issues that the sector has faced to solve them. Similarly, on the cooperative sector, which is a sector that is increasingly becoming, of course, it's been prominent since independence, but becoming increasingly prominent going forward. We've been doing that. And again, I think uniquely what we do is, as opposed to other chambers who want to plant their own flag everywhere, what we do is we actually go and collaborate with several other chambers. Recently, I signed an MOU with the GCCI, the Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry,
Yeah.
which is the largest chamber in Gujarat, and wherein we'll represent them at a national level, they'll represent us in the state. So I think that's been great from our perspective, and in terms of partnering with various chambers.
Wonderful. So, with the Amrit Kal, where do you see the Indian industry, the Indian commerce actually heading? What are the kind of opportunities you guys see as an ICC ahead?
I think if you look at if you look at a next 21 or 23-year viewpoint, which is 2047, and
Yeah.
I think given at the current growth rate that we have, I think by 2047, we should be approximately between a 27 to $30 trillion economy. And assuming our population growth rate, which is now slowly plateauing,
Yeah.
that'll be almost a $20,000 per capita sort of a nominal GDP that we'll
Hmm.
have.
Hmm.
Now,
Hmm.
when you reach that size of an economy with the population that we have, most sectors tend to do well. I mean, be it automotive, be it the agri sector, be it real estate, construction, furn. So most sectors tend to do well because ultimately, when, as you say, you have such a large economy,
Yeah.
you need several rockets that are firing.
Hmm.
So India will, the way I've always looked upon India, Bharat, is we are a young US. We got independence about 160 years after the US, but
Hmm.
we've been catching up quite quickly in terms of both our growth as well as our as well as our improving the quality
Yeah.
of life and
Hmm.
removing people out of poverty, HDI, Human Development Index, as we say. But I think sectors which I think will be great for India. Of course, India is a tech hub. We have been developing IP for the world, but of course, IP for the world, but based in different countries. So you'll have American Indian engineers in the US, developing IP for American companies. So I see a lot of IP in the future being created in India. I see a great deep growth which will come in terms of we'll have very large Indian companies, which of course based on the advantage of India is we have to build innovative low cost companies to deliver solutions. So
Hmm.
once you succeed in India, you can really scale that up globally. And the
Yeah.
next centers of growth that are coming up, say in the African countries, also Europe while it slows down, or the US while it slows
Yeah.
down, it will still be a substantive area of growth, and cost will become very important. So I think us being, I mean, innovative low cost solutions, I'm not just
Yeah.
saying cost is the factor, they're high quality solutions, but the delivery is at a far lower cost than you can deliver
Hmm.
based on other people's, because we are innovative.
Yeah.
So I
True.
think that's also an area where we'll succeed going
Okay.
forward. And I
Okay.
think one important point which we need to highlight with vis-a-vis India is that while we grow, we need to grow sustainably, because today our per capita carbon footprint is one of the lowest in the world. But if
Hmm.
we are to become a 30 trillion economy with a $20,000 per capita GDP,
Yeah.
you're actually looking at this carbon footprint increasing substantively.
Yeah.
So I think the one thing we have to do, and a mistake that we need to not make, which the West made, is that we need to grow without actually increasing our carbon footprint. How
Yeah.
to do that? The jury is out on that. But India, it's imperative that we succeed, because the African countries and other emerging economies are going to follow our, are going to follow our lead.
Absolutely. But what kind of challenges, at least for now, is the industry facing, if any, Amaya, and what kind of efforts probably ICC is doing, to make sure they get resolved?
See, if you ask me, no time is ever going to be perfect, right? 20 years ago, there were challenges and there were opportunities. Today, there are challenges and there are opportunities. And in 2047, 2050, there'll be challenges and opportunities.
Yeah.
So, different industries face different challenges. The common challenge which a lot of industries face is the rising input cost, which is a big problem.
Hmm.
Another challenge which a lot of industries face is, for example, especially the MSME industry faces, is the government, in their best intentions, have brought in a lot of governance and regulation,
Yeah.
especially, but not everybody can handle it in the same way. So
Hmm.
today the regulation is the same for a multi-billion dollar company as it is for a company that does a revenue of say 50 lakhs to a crore,
Yeah.
right? In terms of having a CS, in terms of audits. So I think one thing, so that's a sector, that problem that the MSME sector faces, that they're unable to deal with some of the and even though the intentions are good, it's
Yeah.
the idea was to clean up the economy, clean up
Yeah.
the industry, bring in governance, etc. But not everybody can handle that at an early stage, right?
Hmm.
So I think graded regulation is something that we've been lobbying on.
Okay.
Agri industry is facing its own share of challenges in terms of, right, again, input. For example, tea industry, big problem of rising input cost, big problem of not getting qualified labor. You have a lot of issue today with skilled labor in several
Hmm.
industries,
True.
because as I said, every industry faces its own challenge. Every industry has challenges in various states. Now, if I were to outline that, it'll take us probably a couple of hours, to do that. But
Yeah.
again, there are opportunities as well. So,
Yeah.
as I said, 20 years ago, there were challenges. 20 years from now, there'll be challenges and there'll also be
Absolutely.
opportunities. So, the job of a chamber is to work along with our members to
Hmm.
actually, solve these problems. Working with, we are a conduit.
Yeah.
We are between the government and industry. So, work along with the chamber and so along with the industry and the government to
Yeah.
find solutions to these issues. But I can promise you that 20 years from now, also there'll be other
Yeah.
issues,
Problem.
but
Yeah.
newer
Yeah.
issues.
It has its own.
So,
Yeah. The
yeah.
ecosystem around there and the challenges, of
So
course. Yeah.
even developed economies today, right? You
Of
talk to
course.
industry in
Yeah.
Sweden, you talk to industry in the US, you talk to
Yeah.
industry in Canada. They also have their own share of challenges. So
Agree.
that's the nature of life.
Yeah, absolutely. Amaya, tell us about your venture, NAFA Capital. Maybe you could share a little more about it.
Sure, sure. So Nafa Capital is a India-focused financial services firm. We have a public equities fund, we have a private markets fund within the group. So it's not exactly under Nafa Capital, but within the group also we have an investment banking business and a rural lending business.
Okay.
And the idea, of course, was to build a one-stop platform for global investors who look to invest into India.
Okay.
And so that's what we do. We
Hmm.
also have a couple of other businesses which are within the group, but not under NAFA. We have a sustainable agri JV with IFCO,
Uh-huh.
which does investments in the agri space.
Yeah.
So from waste, we make fertilizer, and some of the IFCO is the largest agro cooperative in the world, largest fertilizer manufacturer in Asia. So we have
Okay.
that, and we also are shareholders in a fund in the US called Fernway, which
Hmm.
is a US focused industrial fund,
Okay.
and so we also have that. But NAFA Capital specifically is a very much India focused financial services firm, which basically assists across the value chain people to invest into India.
Ah, okay. You seem to have some amazing writing skills. You also published your own book, The Rock Babas and Other Stories. Uh, when did you realize that you have these amazing writing skills? And tell us about the book itself.
So we have been, I have been writing since I was very young. I've
Uh-huh.
been writing since probably I was 12, 13, articles, poetry. I
Yeah.
also wrote a play when I was 17, and we directed that, me and a friend, and for Theatre Week in college. So I've been writing my whole life, but I think what I always wanted to do was write a whole book.
Yeah.
And, to write a book, I think it needs 10% creativity, 90% discipline.
Yeah.
And by discipline, I mean dedication of time,
Yeah.
which is something
Absolutely.
which, being an entrepreneur, I always found it challenging to dedicate that. Of course, I wrote shorter articles. So
Yeah.
I wrote for the Huff Post, I wrote for Quint, Business Today, both fiction and, of course, stuff on the economy. But I think when COVID hit, it gave me some time. It
Okay.
actually gave a lot of us time. And
Of course.
finally, I had the one luxury that I never had, which was time. So I actually sat down and penned it. It's a book of 9 short stories called The Rock Babas and Other Stories. And the stories are based all over the world. There are stories in India, in Japan, in Colombia. And they basically outline the journey of the title character, or,
Hmm.
the person and the challenges and tribulations they go through and how they overcome it. And of course, it's a microcosm for all of us, right? I mean,
Yeah.
all of us have issues that we face, and how we deal with them and overcome with them evolves us as a human being.
Yeah.
And the reason why I based my characters around the world, they are from different nationalities, different religions, different social strata, is because I wanted to showcase that we're all the same,
Hmm.
especially at time like COVID. When I
Yeah.
wrote the book, that was a very strong theme. Of course, unfortunately, the world is again slipping into divisiveness, wars, which is
Yeah.
a very difficult time for the world. But in COVID, you realize that the virus doesn't discriminate. They don't
True.
know what religion you are, what race you are, what
Yeah.
nationality you are. And I think in a way, I wanted to make people realize that we are all human beings.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you're based in Hong Kong, I'm based in India. We're both Indians or origin. You're
Yeah.
from Mumbai, but maybe your kids in the future could be Canadian, American,
Yeah.
Argentinian.
True.
But we're all the same people. Essentially.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Tell us about Manav Sandhan Vikas Sanstha. It's an NGO which is doing amazing work and it's focused on holistic human life, right? So what's the kind of work that's being done by this NGO?
Sure. So Manav Sadhan Vikas Samstha, or MSVS for short, it was started by my parents. My mother is the chairperson. I'm a trustee of the NGO.
Hmm.
We focus on skill training and skill development
Yeah.
with a large emphasis on women. So we run a EDI, an Entrepreneurship Development Institute in Navi Mumbai. We have a nursing college in Anau, which is near Kudar, which is in the Sindhudurg district of Maharashtra. We have two JSSs, Jan Shikshan Samsthas, in Ratnagiri district and in Sindhudurg district, expanding now into physio, into ED again, another EDI in we have another EDI in Sindhudurg Nagri, which is
Okay.
the headquarters of the Sindhudurg district. So
Hmm.
basically, rural skill and skill development.
Yeah.
It's run 100% not for profit.
Hmm.
Of course, we do ensure that our the people we skill pay a small token fee, because
Hmm.
what we have seen is that
Yeah.
in India, if you give something for free, people don't value it. So
Absolutely.
you need to put that little fee so that there
Yeah.
is some commitment, there is some accountability that
Agree.
comes in. And I'm very happy to note that we've trained over 100,000 people.
Wow.
We've created a lot of entrepreneurs. We've created a lot of people, brought in a lot of employment. So we've trained seamstresses, drivers for JCBs, of course,
Oh.
several nurses. And the
Yeah.
thing with India is nurses are at very high, Indian nurses are at very high demand. So usually the entire passing class has a job even before they graduate.
Yeah.
And so we are very happy that not only have we trained people, we've given them a source of livelihood. So very often, actually, incidentally, yesterday I was in Sindhudurg, I was
Uh-huh.
in Gurla and in parts of the district.
Yeah.
And actually, whenever I go, in the district, I always meet people who we've trained. I always meet people like a small salon run by a woman. And and I think that's what's great about it.
Yeah.
Like in Mumbai, we did a course in the slums with
Okay.
a with for seamstresses.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of, I mean, there were a few widows who did not have any source of income and who actually never worked in their life. And there was
Hmm.
a Muslim woman, actually. She was,
Hmm.
and when I was giving her the certificate, she was
Hmm.
crying. I'm like, what happened? She's like, I've never had a job, and now my husband has passed away. My children are not in the country. No
Hmm.
one's there to look after me. Now I have got the ability to stand on my own 2 feet,
Yeah.
and I've got a sense of meaning again. So I
Wonderful.
think, the most important thing in life is not doling out things, but is giving people respect
Yeah.
and giving people the ability to actually have self-respect and belief in themselves by endowing them with skills and abilities. And I
True.
think if you ask me in a crux, that's what we do.
Yeah, that's
That's what we attend to.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely wonderful. Your family starting this initiative, and 100,000 plus getting trained is an absolutely awesome work, and that too being done in the interior parts of Maharashtra. That's kudos to you and your family. One last question before we leave. You've been traveling the world as a part of your job requirement, right? As a part of ICC, what's the kind of view that you see from the world on India? What kind of uh, views that or feedback that you get from people outside India on about India?
I'll give you a small example. My father served in the government for many years.
Yeah.
He was in government and parliament for almost 26 years in government for half of those. And I remember in 2000, in the year 99,
Hmm.
he was Minister of Chemical and Fertilizer, and they
Yeah.
wanted to organize India Chem 2000,
Hmm.
and which was a big chemical, exhibition. And I remember that he didn't have, I mean, the ministry did not have too many global participants.
Hmm.
So he requested the prime minister that I really need to go on a road show. And
Yeah.
of course, Prime Minister, the Vajpayee ji, agreed, and he went abroad. And initially, he really struggled to get meetings, with the big
Hmm.
chairmen, CEOs, and the ministry and the embassy had to really work hard to get the meetings. And of course, they got the meetings, it was a success.
Hmm.
But they had to work really hard to do that.
Yeah.
Today, the people are coming to us. Actually, an Indian minister or an Indian businessman doesn't have to go out anymore because the world is coming to us.
Coming. Yeah.
And I think there is no better example than that. Like just this morning, before I got onto the call with you, I got a message from a large European bank,
Uh-huh.
one of, and not a major, I would say, a tier two European bank. Well, tier
Yeah.
one is already here, the Deutsche
Yeah.
Banks, the
Yeah.
BNP Paribas, but a tier two European bank. And we're going to get very
Yeah.
large by
Yeah. Of
global
course.
standards. And the chairperson is like, I really want to come to India to meet you because we are very, very keen to now look at India, do things with India. And it is incredible. I would have never expected this maybe even 10 years ago that the
Absolutely.
whole world is looking at this. Last week, there was the CEO of a company in the US, which is one of the largest allocators in the world. So they're a
Uh-huh.
wealth management firm. So they are basically, I believe they allocate around 600 billion. And
Hmm.
there's another Swiss private bank, again, which allocates about 400 billion, globally for
Hmm.
investment. Both the CEO and one of the family members of that were in India last week in
Wow.
Mumbai,
Hmm.
and of course meeting other people as well. But I
Yeah.
was one of the people they met, looking at investing into India. Now,
Hmm.
this honestly was never the case earlier. I think
Yeah.
a large amount of work goes, and the large amount of the credit goes to our prime minister for
Yeah.
creating the environment. He is probably the number one chief marketing officer of India because he's
Agree.
done an amazing job
True.
with people. And today, you are in Seoul, I mean, I go to Africa a lot because we have business there. Everywhere you go, people want to know about India, talk about
Agree.
India, they want to invest in India, do more, visit, tourism. And I think a lot of the credit, and honestly goes to the work done by the government, and we are
Yeah.
all beneficiaries of it. So
True.
when people ask you where do your tax dollars go, they actually go in several things into an infrastructure. Like I
Yeah.
travel a lot around the country. I was yesterday, phenomenal roads in rural Maharashtra.
Absolutely.
Last
Yeah.
week, I was in North Bengal. I was in Siliguri. We had our ICC North Bengal meeting, and then I went to Darjeeling. Not only great roads,
Yeah.
in the middle of nowhere, I saw some yak wool. My wife was with me. I saw some yak wool shawls I
Wow.
wanted to buy for her, and I went. It was, of course, it was not very expensive, but I could pay in the middle of nowhere by UPI.
Amazing.
The woman who
Unimaginable,
come
right?
from the hills carrying everything. I said, boss, paisa nahi hai. He said, no problem. Gives me a barcode and I pay by that. So,
Wow.
look at infrastructure, payments, again, self pride. That
Yeah.
woman today, old woman, she must be
Mm.
65, 70, making her own thing, self employed, bringing and selling that to people like us, sitting on the highway and selling that.
Yeah.
And, that is so, again, in Hindi, we have a word called asmita, that
Mm.
pride,
Mm.
that,
Mm.
having, so that is what, the self confidence that today
Yeah.
India has.
Yeah.
And I think that's what attracts the world to India. Yeah.
Absolutely. Can't agree more, Amaya. Amaya, thank you so much for being on this podcast, The Sound of Money, and keep doing the great work you guys are doing, not just as ICC, but also the NGO that you have. I'm sure it's a completely different spectrum from an ICC to the NGO that you work. You see the India of a different kind in both the lenses, I'm sure.
No, no. Thank you so much, Santosh. Thank you for having me. And I look forward to engaging further. And if anybody has any queries or anything, just let me know and share my email with them, please.
Absolutely. Thank you once again for being on the podcast, The Sound of Money. And well, with that, we come to the end of this edition of The Sound of Money from me, Santosh Sirur, and my guest, Mr. Amaya Prabhu. Thank you once again for joining on The Sound of Money. Bye bye.